Said today they would continue to support a third runway at Heathrow, but crucially also said they would not allow additional runways to be built at any other airport if the party won the election. It means plans for a second runway at Stansted would almost certainly be shelved. Gareth George reports.
John and Rosemary Welch love their garden, but if a second runway was built, they'd have to give it up and move on. But today's pledge has given them fresh hope.
I mean, certainly more hope for now. But I just feel that we can't be sort of complacent about it. Not yet, anyway.
In its manifesto, Labour backed a third runway at Heathrow, but said it wouldn't allow runways to go ahead elsewhere, at least during the next Parliament. And campaigners battling the second runway at Stansted say that makes the project here even more unlikely. They also claim the figures show there's no longer a need for it. Stansted already has permission to go up to 35 million passengers on its existing runway. In 2007, it got up to 24 million, but passenger numbers have since slipped back to just under 20 million. At the Three Horseshoes pub, which would also go if a second runway was built, Stop Stansted expansion called on BAA to withdraw its planning application.
We'd like BAA to face up to the fact that this second runway application isn't going anywhere. It should withdraw its application and remove the blight which has hung over the community for so long and which is set to continue as long as their application is in place.
The Conservatives and the Lib Dems have already said they'll shelve plans for a second runway at Stansted. With today's pledge from Labour, campaigners here say the runway's receded even further into the future.
Gareth George with that report. Parliament was formally dissolved today and so began the first official day of campaigning. In southwest London, candidates targeting the seats of Richmond Park and Twickenham, which were held by the Liberal Democrats, took part in hustings. Well, Mike Ramsden was there. And Mike, what were the main issues then?
Well, as you said, day one of official campaigning, and already you can see the difference between this election and previous elections. An hour and 3/4 of debate, quite heated debate in that church hall behind me, and half of that wasn't about policies, it was about political process. Things like proportional representation discussed, political funding as well discussed in detail too, even the ideas of what would happen if there's a hung parliament in May.
Parties will have to put aside their tribal differences and act in the wider national interest, and it will be new, novel. We'll have to get away from the old kind of triumphalist ways of doing politics and have to do things differently.
This utopian world that Dr. Cable's been talking about, where we all suddenly work together. No, what actually happens is parties waste huge amounts of time trying to do backroom deals in the middle of an economic crisis rather than cracking on with the job of actually dealing with the debt reduction, dealing with public services.
Any time spent talking about hung parliaments is essentially wasted time. They are very rare. I think the last one was in February 1974, and there was shortly after that election that year, there was another parliament to break, and effectively there was another election to break that.
Now, they were all candidates from the Twickenham constituency. Full details of all those candidates standing in that seat are on your screen right now. Back to you, Riz.
Mike, thanks very much. The Prime Minister joined mourners in central London today as they paid their respects to those killed in a plane crash in Russia on Saturday. The Polish President was among the 96 who died.